So we'll talk about UFC 1. Again, it was Denver, Colorado, McNichols Arena, November 12th, 1993. 25th anniversary coming up, everyone. We'll talk about the fight. We'll talk about Art Jimerson. That's not famous but infamous because Art Jimerson wore one glove. I can tell that story. Talk about what Royce did against Ken Shamrock, who was introduced to the world. And we'll also talk about the final with Gerard Gordeau. For those of you who don't know, there were 10 fighters there. There were 2 alternates, Jason DeLucia and Trent Jenkins, but it was an 8-man tournament. You had to fight 3 times, win 3 times to get a $50,000 check.
On the same night.
Y'all keep talking about much for YouTube.
My favorite quote, a lot of people say, Royce said, I'm going to go to Disneyland because that was the commercial at the time, which was a great quote, but what was lost there, which was the beautiful quote for me, he said, I'm just still Royce. And I thought that was lovely.
I had to take my mother to Disneyland.
Yeah.
She was in town visiting.
For someone like me who had grown up around boxing and wrestling and professional wrestling, to see what he did, it was like somebody landed from another planet. My concept of martial arts was Jean-Claude Van Damme in Bloodsport or The Karate Kid. And to see what Royce Gracie did in this sport that I'd never even heard of, didn't know how to pronounce his name. All right, so this is the Art Jimerson fight. So
It's going to go through a little, it's going to show a little bit of all of it.
Art Jimerson, I think, was number 8
in the world.
in the ranking in boxing.
As a cruiserweight. In fact, Art Jimerson had a fight with Thomas Hitman Hearns scheduled after, and he wound up pulling out of that fight.
And he used one glove because he wants to jab me and keep me away so much. He didn't want to break his hand.
Jimerson thought, and this is how little people knew about it. Greg Jackson, the great trainer, had a marvelous quote. He said, when people like Royce Gracie, his brothers, Elio Gracie had a PhD, all the rest of us were in kindergarten. And that's really true. So Art Jimerson, number 8 in the world as a cruiserweight, literally thought he could grab the gi and then knock out Royce Gracie. He never landed a punch. In fact, he never threw a punch, as you will see. Takedown. Slide over into full mount. Heel strikes to the kidneys, which we brought back.
We can do that
We
now?
brought that, yes, we brought that back 2 years ago. That's against Ken Shamrock. Ken stupidly sitting back. No disrespect, Ken. For a leg lock against Royce Gracie, and this is what happens when you sit back for a leg lock. This is the final. This is Gerard Gordeau, who is world champion in Savate, deadly in Muay Thai. I was with Boss Rutan last week. Boss telling me how Gordeau was a full-on gangster and leg breaker for the Dutch mob, but no match for Royce Gracie. This is back to the semifinals in Ken Shamrock and getting caught. Is that a bulldog choke, would you call that? Or that's a rear naked on Gordeau. You think it was a bulldog choke on Ken?
Rear naked choke.
Yeah, rear naked, cut from the side angle.
Yeah.
And then there's Gordeau
Same
tapping.
one that you had it today.
Now, Royce, tell everyone why you held the choke. Tell everyone why you held the choke on Gordeau.
Well, there was 2 rules back then. No gloves, no time limit, no weight division. The only thing is not allowed was eye gouging and biting. Men's agreement. Because if he does eye gouge or bite, the referee said, don't do it again. There was no punishment. There was nothing would have happened. And as soon as I told Gerard Gordeau down, he took a bite on my ear. So I whispered in his ear, you cheating. He just looked at me, gave me a look like, so what? I was like, okay. And I grabbed the choke, I hold it a little longer. I didn't see him tapping.
And if you saw, a lot of you know the fight, Gordeau at this point, again, who was a leg breaker for the Dutch mob, is reduced to tapping both hands on the canvas. And having just been put in his rear naked choke about an hour ago, I understand why.
Longest fight in history, 90 minutes. My father held one longer than that. There was 3 hours and 40 minutes.
Was that Osvaldo Santana? Was that
Valdemar Santana,
Yeah.
yes. One round of 3 hours and 40 minutes. So it's like, yes. My father had blisters on the back of his back. The opponent actually passed away a few years later, and they said it was because of that fight. Because my father heel kicked with the kidney so much After the fight,
Yeah.
he was urinating fragments of the kidney. But that was 3-hour fight.
Yeah.
So not a 5-minute fight.
As you just saw on the last graphic, that Royce rightfully is the champion of UFC 1, UFC 2, UFC 4, was the first inductee into the UFC Hall of Fame. Joe Walsh asked me at dinner, he said, while Royce was getting photos taken, who's the greatest grappler ever in the sport? I said, this guy. Demian Maia, full respect. I'm a big Marcin Held fan. Jacare is phenomenal. But Royce was defeating fighters, and we'll talk about this, with different disciplines, different styles, much bigger men often, like Akibono Chad Rowan, who weighed 515 pounds.
490.
490. Dan the Beast Severn, who was probably 255.
265. Are you testing my memory?
And he did it virtually all with jiu-jitsu. You would throw a little rangefinder teep kick, a little front kick, shoot the takedown, and you were beating guys with jiu-jitsu. That's why I think you're the greatest grappler in the history of this sport.
The greatest grappler is my daughter. She can get anything out of me without even throwing a punch.
So we'll talk about UFC 1, and the perception was certainly with Art Davie, who along with Royce's brother Horion founded the UFC. Art was the creator, brought on Horion, because Art was doing research and he read a story in Playboy magazine, No Judgment, called Bad, and it was a story about Horion Gracie, talking about there's this crazy fighting family from Brazil that now lives in Torrance, California, and they don't have a school, but they train out of their garage, and they have a style that's unbeatable. And Art said, I've got to meet these guys, and just so happened that Art lived in Torrance, California. I don't know if you remember, but Art walked into then you were building the gym, and Art walked in, saw you, saw your dad, saw your brother, started training there. They eventually created the company Wild Promotions, which launched the UFC.
They got in partnership with Semaphore Entertainment.
That's right,
Group,
Bob Meyrowitz.
And the director for Conan the Destroyer.
John Milius.
John Milius.
And John Milius, who was nominated for an Academy Award for writing Apocalypse Now, he wrote the line, "Go ahead, make my day," is a script doctor for Clint Eastwood, and he directed the original Red Dawn and Conan the Barbarian. He was a student of your brother.
Yes, and when he first designed the cage, they actually came up with ideas of putting gators around,
Yes.
like a pit, and they put the fence should be electrical fence, but then they're like, imagine frying the guy on the fence, live TV. Nah, cancel that one too. Make the cage, instead of cage, make it like a bowl so people cannot run out. And it's like they had all kind of crazy ideas at the beginning.
So the agreement was, as partners, Art Davie and Horion Gracie, Royce's older brother, delineation of duties, and Art was charged with finding all the fighters except with the Gracie. He wasn't going to step in, and Art told me he wasn't sure. Could have been your brother Hoyler. It could have been Horion himself.
Hoyler was too lighter than me.
Art thought perhaps Horion might even decide to step in.
Could have been Hickson, but too heavy.
Well, that was the thought too, was that it was Hickson. And
even my mother was against me fighting.
And it was 27-year-old, 175-pound Royce
26.
Gracie. Can you tell this story? Can you tell this story of how that happened? Did you think it was going to be Hickson? Of when your brother Horion went to you and said, you're going to fight in this tournament?
Growing up with my family, my uncle had 21 kids, 11 boys, 10 girls. My father had 9 kids, 7 boys, 2 girls. Together, right there, just the two of them had more than 50 grandchildren, more than 100 great-grandchildren already. So it's a big family. And we're always like, let it be me, please, please, let it be me. And there's always somebody before you and after you. So I'm thinking, yeah, he's probably going to put either Royler was a little lighter, or Hickson. They always got in a bunch of fights, but then they had to choose. My father chose me to step in. Let's say be on the right weight at the right time. Hickson wouldn't be as impressive. He's about 190, 195. To beat somebody 200 pounds, 220 pounds, he got a big physique, so it wouldn't be as impressive. Putting Royler, he would have probably do the same job, but too light, about 165 pounds, so you might have took him a little longer. So that's what my father, plus he looks help too, so yeah, that's why he chose me.
It's in the book, and Art Davey tells the story that Ken Shamrock comes in, and Ken Shamrock had been doing what was called shoot fighting then, and it lived in the gray area between Japanese professional wrestling, what's called Puroresu, or strong style, where it's predetermined, but they're really going after each other, but the outcome is predetermined, and actual shoots, meaning real fights, there was kind of the gray area. And Ken comes in and thinking that he really...
220 pounds?
220 pounds and completely ripped, if anyone's seen that.
Pharmacy?
And some of his...
Did I say that?
Yes, you did. And Art told me that Ken came in and was like, well, who's the tough guy who do I have to watch out for? And Art said, well, this guy. And Art was a student also at the Gracie Academy. I don't know if you know the story. And Ken said, that skinny guy in the karate pajamas, him? And he was choked out in 59 seconds. So,
but the whole thing, why we started this, we got to go back in time. When my father and my uncles started to do jiu-jitsu, it became a quest for my family. A lot of people thought, well, the Gracies are arrogant. They still think that we are arrogant for doing this, that we're trying to push down the other styles. No, we're just in a quest. When my father learned, and my uncles, they're like, okay, everybody claimed that their style is the best. There's only one way to find out. Let's take the rules, take the gloves, take time limit, take everything out. You do your thing, I'll do my thing. Get in a ring. Back then was a ring. Get in a ring, and we just duke it out until somebody quit. It was a quest to find out. That's what they were doing. And that carried on through whatever happens in Brazil. Nobody knows around the world until my brother Horion brought to America and created the first UFC. When it was a quest to find out, okay, now we're getting there's different styles, there's different ways, they're bigger and better quality in America. And they brought guys from Japan and Holland and starting to bring people from all over the world. Still was a quest to find out if our style really worked. So, and we're a self-defense style, we're not an aggressive, offensive style. But that's how the whole thing started. It was a quest for my family.
So I'm going to ask you about the Gracie Challenge. So that's something that lives in lore, and there are a lot of Gracie Challenge videos on YouTube. And the Gracie Challenge was basically, in Portuguese, it's vale tudo, which means everything or anything goes. And it was your style against my style. And martial artists from around Southern California, sometimes from around the world, would come in, and they would issue a challenge to one of the Gracie brothers. But what John McCarthy, who was a student there, what Art Davey, who was a student there, told me, it was always respectful. It was, you would shake hands, that you and your brothers and your father were so respectful, so hospitable, but we're going to fight and we're going to go after it. And they would go. And the most amazing thing, and McCarthy has told me this, as has Art, is that people who were lifelong martial artists, 50th Dan and black belt and red belt and all of this, would get taken down and choked out. And rather than be angry, they would say, let's go again, because they could not figure out what happened.
If you fight against Mike Tyson and you get knocked out but don't get hurt at all, you're going to get up and say, let's do it again. I want to try again. This is fun. So we don't hurt them. Our idea of the Gracie Challenge, it was a challenge for them. For us, we're trying to get a new student. So
it was marketing.
By the way, yes. So by the way, my family got very well known. 2 former presidents in Brazil took class with my father. Everybody knew him. My brother Horion decided to come to America. Coming to America, he started from bottom. I'm talking panhandling on the street. ashamed to call Brazil and ask for that for money and ticket back. So he panhandled, slept on the streets, worked on construction, and went back to Brazil after a year doing that in America. Went back to Brazil, got a law degree, came back to America, started again work on flipping burgers and washing dishes and from the bottom teaching in the garage. One of his friend that he was a roommate had a mat, so he started teaching in the garage. On the meantime, he was working cleaning houses. Ended up cleaning a house for a couple that work in Hollywood for the extra, that hire people to be extras in the background. So they said, hey, give me a good-looking guy, exotic looking from Brazil. Give me pictures, I'll put you to work on as an extra. So he would have worked Monday, Wednesday, and Fridays on the movies as an extra. Tuesdays, Thursdays, and Saturdays, he would teach at home in the garage. That's when I came in. So I came in and started in '84. I came in. I started teaching. When he was going to work in Hollywood, I would stay home and teach private classes all day. So the house actually looked like a crack house because every half an hour there was a new person walk in, walk out, walk in, walk out. It was like we start classes like 7:30, 8 o'clock in the morning. We finish by 8 o'clock at night.
So Royce wins UFC 1. There's the decision made that 8-man tournament's too easy. We'll go to 16-man tournament. So Royce has to win 4 fights, defeats Pat Smith in the final. Destroyed Pat Smith, actually. He's still mad about it. I saw him about 2 years ago. He's still angry on that. I don't know if you know that or not.
He had anger management issues over there, man. He does. If you know Pat Smith.
That's UFC 2. Now, UFC 4, and this is my all-time favorite fight. This, to me, proved to the world, if there were any doubters left, and I don't know why there would have been at this point, but it proved to the world Gracie Jiu-Jitsu and what it can do. So, it's the final. Royce against Dan Severn. Dan Severn, 200, you said?
265.
265. And you were
All-American wrestler.
So you're basically 100 pounds bigger than you.
I'm 178, yes.
Dan,
Still 178.
yeah, exactly the same weight. We were talking about that same weight. You want to watch the Severn fight?
Whatever one you think is the best fight we can
Dan Severn. It's the finish of the fight. So
Hold on. What's the best fight? UFC 1, there's 3 fights. UFC 2, there's 4 fights. UFC 3, there's Kimo, 250 pounds with the help of a pharmacy. UFC 4, there's Dan Severn. Sakuraba, that's an hour and a half fight, so that would be too long.
Well,
Akibono, 6'8", 490 pounds.
pull the Akibono, but I'll say about Severn and why this was significant in the sport too. So Dan was an Olympic alternate. He was an All-American wrestler at Arizona State. He spends 99% of the fight on top, and he taps to a triangle.
But the impressive part is what he did before to his opponents.
Yeah. Anthony Mad Dog Macias, he suplexes on his head.
Pretty much like the Hulk when he fought on the movie that he gets the guy from Thor's brother and go like this on him. Pretty much that's what Dan Severn was doing to the guys.
And Royce with a man 80 plus pounds bigger than him, a world-class wrestler, Olympic alternate, and Dan Severn gains top position. Royce is patient, he's calm, lifelong of training kicks in, and you catch him in a triangle, and you tap him. And I still remember my reaction in front of the television. It was just one of those moments where you don't forget. And I was already your acolyte after what you did to Jimerson in your first fight of UFC 1. But I think that really proved to the world, because there were still people who said, yeah, but wait till they get a world-class wrestler in, and you triangle Dan Severn. What are your thoughts on that fight? What are your remembrances of the Severn fight?
Dan Severn, I was almost like, because UFC 3, I won the first fight. I had dehydration, so I didn't come back to start my second fight. So UFC 4, it was almost like, I'm back, people.
This is a long fight. We'll have to go to the end. You have to go.
2 minutes.
Oh, it's just 2 minutes? Okay. John McCarthy is the referee, if you guys caught that, by the way. And this is where wrestling was exposed in the evolution, is that Dan has the takedown, Dan has top position, Royce doesn't panic, and Dan's not really sure what to do here. Yeah, How long was this fight? 16 minutes? 18 minutes?
It's about 16 years. The pay-per-view cut it at 15 minutes.
Yes.
So everybody's TV went blank, didn't know who won.
That's true. Luckily, they had the rebroadcast
I think the
on
fight
mine,
is-
and the rebroadcast came out. I got to see the
It
rebroadcast
was
to see who won.
1630 or 1640.
There's the triangle. Dan's so strong, so heavy.
The orders from my father was always, do not hit your opponent. Don't hurt them. My mother always wait for him to walk away and say, your father is old, he doesn't know what he's doing. Pick him up, son.
There's the tap, and there's the win. Trisha, can you pull up it's Akibono or Chad Rowan? So one thing Royce and I were talking about is the evolution. That at UFC 1 talked about that. It was supposed to be no groin strikes, and then Zane Frazier, who lost to Kevin Rozier in his first fight, came from Kempo. And in the rules meeting, if you remember, he said, no, we can throw groin strikes in Kempo. I want to do those. And, okay, sure, whatever. So there's no biting, which Gordo then breached, and no eye gouging, and nothing like that. No weight classes. It was self-reporting. How much do you weigh? It was written down, and that was it. It was insane on the evolution of that. And it was really like a street fight. It truly was like a street fight.
I mean, it was a quest to find out which style is the best. Today, it's more of a who is the best fighter. That's the quest I think most fighters are doing this, to find out who is the best fighter. So yes, people ask me all the time, do you agree with time limit and weight division? Okay, if I'm gonna give you the weight advantage, you gotta give me time. It would be unfair. You see, for me to fight somebody like much bigger in a short round. So I'll give you the weight, but you give me time. But now today, everybody's on the same weight division. So the whole thing is helps the fighters, the life, the regulations. All people complain, oh man, the rules help the grapplers, help the stand-up fighters. It's equal for both of them. So the grapplers always telling me, oh man, the rules are in favor of the stand-up guys. No, it is not. The stand-up guys tell me the rules are in favor of the grapplers. No, it is not. It's the same. They both weight at the same weight. The time is equal for both of them. So it's whoever have the best strategy.
So we talked about, and you saw the massive weight differential between Royce and Dan Severn. So Trisha, are you able to find it?
I'm working on it.
So in Japan, against Akibono, Akibono's real name is Chad Rowan. He's from Hawaii, but he was that first wave of American fighters, a lot of whom came from Hawaii, to do sumo. And you said he was 585?
490.
490 when he fought you.
6'8", 490 pounds.
Yeah. And if we can find this, you're going to again see the brilliance of Gracie Jiu-Jitsu. And that's the era we're talking about. Virtually no rules, no weight classes, sometimes no time limits.
Yeah, but a lot of the guys from back then, if you look at them today, they're very beat up.
Yeah, absolutely.
Very beat up. Yes, I don't really agree with the gloves, because the gloves are there to protect the person's hand and not protect this fighter's face, but it's a different story. But but the rules, yes, it helped the fighters live longer. So they can fight, have a career, finish, and have no problem, no issues. Different than the guys back then, a lot of them are having body problems.
So for those of you, again, you're going to see the brilliance of Royce, you're going to see the brilliance of Gracie Jiu-Jitsu. So here's the Akibono fight. What are you thinking at this point?
Right now, I don't have time to think about much. I'm not even thinking about going home to eat dinner that night. But I thought that when I go to the ground, he was not going to be able to get up. And I was planning on going to his back. And I start to go to his back. When he pushed me away like this, I bounce off the ropes. I go, now I'm mad. I was like, I can't believe you just shoved me off like a fly, like push me away. Before the fight, everybody was like, are you crazy? How are you gonna take such a guy so heavy down? How are you gonna beat the guy? The guy's so big, so strong. After the fight, everybody was like, he's heavy, he's slow, he can't move. It's easy. I say, walk up to a 6'8", 490 pounds person, slap him on the face, you see how slow he moves.
Looking for the shoulder lock into the omoplata.
The hits are just to distract him, to make him move. I don't really have much power to knock him out.
That's an omoplata shoulder lock, the crank. That was very close to snapping. And there's the win.
The best part is right now when my brother hugged me and I tell him, I told you I could have beat him under 3 minutes. On the way to the stadium, I was telling the guys, I don't think he will last 3 minutes. I can tap him out. I think it was the first round was 10, second round was supposed to be 5, 2 rounds. I told the guys I can beat him under 3. My brother walked by and slapped me on the back of the head and don't say that. You beat him when you beat him. So it's like, all right, wait for him to walk away. I told the guys I can beat him under 3. So when I finished, I look at him, I was like, I told you.
Royce, I told you how much I love the Severn fight and why I loved it, because of your composure. And if there were any doubters left about what do you do against a wrestler, it quieted that. What's your favorite fight in your career?
It's hard to pick one, man. It's all of them. Like I said, Severn, Kimmel.
Yeah.
Kimmel was a totally wrong fight. I just tried to match strength with him. And that was a total, don't try that at home. It's like, don't do it. Even 4 fights in one night. So I keep on all of them. It's hard to pick one. But yeah, it's hard to pick one.
When your brother Horion, he was the first, right, coming to Los Angeles from Brazil?
Yes.
And then you came, your father Elio. Could you ever envision, you knew the Gracie Jiu-Jitsu would be big, could you ever envision where it was a household name?
I knew it was going to be that big because I came from Brazil. So I knew what happened in Brazil. But first arrived in America and going through customs, I can be a drug dealer or I can be carrying a bomb. Yes, major hard time. And I remember, and I told a couple nephews and nieces, I remember going through saying, one day these guys are going to ask for my autograph. And every time I go through immigration now, they're like, oh, you're the Gracie.
Yeah.
Can we sneak out and take a quick picture? It's awesome.
I know some of you have questions. I'm tethered in on a lavalier mic, so I think we're gonna have to put you back to work here.
Intern Nick.
We'll go to questions. Thank you, Nick. Questions in the room?
Have a question?
Here we go. No one wants to be first.
I'll get the ball rolling here. Who is the toughest person you've ever fought and you have to answer? Or Sean will choke you.
It's inside of my head, my imagination. Who's your toughest opponent? It's inside your head. We gotta fight tomorrow, okay? I guarantee you, you won't sleep tonight thinking about what's gonna happen. But tomorrow I might have a cold, I might not even show up. But you won't sleep tonight. So yes, it's inside. And once I can deal with that monster inside of my head, you see, it's the opponent itself. Before the fights, the day of it, every fighter goes in, check the cage. We go in. My brother always bring us together. We say a prayer. I'll let one drop of tear goes down, and I'm automatic pilot. I'm not thinking about going home that night. So now fight somebody like that. I'm not thinking about dinner. So it's inside of my head, my imagination. And my imagination, my opponent have 4 arms, 4 legs, 2 heads. It's a punch will go through a cement wall. So can't afford to get hit. Yep. And I train like that. Not, if you saw my training, you'd be like, really? That's it? I tell the guys, just put your hand on my face. If you touch my face, I take that as a hit. This whole thing of you gotta get used to get hit. No. You get used to get hit. I get used to hit you. We're made for each other. I don't get used to get hit. No.
The questions?
You were saying that everything's equal now with all the weights and the comparable styles and stuff. With all the controversy and the conversation about the weight cutting, do you have thoughts on that? How to get them?
I walk around 178 for the last 25 years. Cutting weight, what I tell the guys is, it's like the guys that say, well, I gotta get ready. Hold on. You're walking down the street with your girl, somebody pinch her, you're gonna say, hold on, honey, I'll take care of this. Excuse me, how much do you weigh? Can we meet tomorrow, because I gotta get ready? There's no such a thing. You gotta be ready all time. It's 24/7. It's like people ask me all the time, ask me all the time when I was in Japan after one of the fights in Pride, New Year's evening, all the fighters sit on the table after the event, right before New Year's evening, a reporter asked, what are you guys gonna drink tonight to celebrate your victory and New Year's? I let everybody go ahead first. Beer, champagne, vodka, this and wine and that, and got to my turn. Everybody else, okay, what are you gonna drink, Mr. Gracie? Water. No, to celebrate, water. That's the difference in between me and them. Sorry guys, I'm a full-time professional athlete, not a part-time, not a professional athlete to tell the girls, hey, I'm a professional athlete, do you want a beer?
Yeah.
No. So, nah, I don't cut weight. I don't believe on that. Yeah, you gotta lose 3-4 pounds to make it. Okay, but walk around that weight. Not lose 20 pounds to make weight. Come on, really? Somebody call you out tomorrow, you're gonna have to lose weight, you gotta get ready. Nah.
The question?
What's a typical day of training and the follow-up is what would a typical week of training be?
I consider eating part of my training, sleeping part of my training. So it's from eyes open to eyes closed, everything. So I do everything, from running to swimming to biking to jiu-jitsu to boxing, kickboxing, everything. But I'm not overdoing. I don't overdo it. I hear guys that I'm gonna run for an hour in the morning to warm up, and then I'll come home, I'll eat something. and then I'm gonna go jump on a bike for half an hour, and then I'm gonna do wrestling, and then after wrestling I'll eat something again, and then I go back and I'm gonna box for an hour, and then I'm gonna do jiu-jitsu for an hour, and I'll go eat lunch and I rest, and then I come back and do this and do that and do this all day long, but they can't fight 15 minutes. Something's not right. You see? So yes, I do everything. But very, like I said, training, if you put your hand on my face, I consider that as a hit. You watch me training for a fight, you're going to be like, really? Is that all? You see me boxing, you laugh. I was training with Joe Schilling at the yard, and they're like, oh my God, how did you win your fights? You can't throw a punch or a kick. But then put me in the ring, they cannot touch me. They will have a very hard time touching it, hitting it. You can't find me in the cage, in the ring. So, because I know distance, and I have a lot of endurance. First thing to win a fight, you gotta know what you're doing. Or anything, basketball, football, anything. If you don't know, you have no business in there. Second thing is endurance. You can have the fastest car in the world, but if you don't have gas, your next door neighbor with a scooter who will go much faster than you. What are you going to do, push your car? The third thing becomes power, in that order, exactly. A lot of people switch, they look good, got a lot of power, but no gas. Or they know what they're doing, got a lot of power, but zero gas. So after the first round, man, he's done. So you got to know what you're doing, you got to have endurance, and then power.
Cristiano? Oh yeah, sir, go ahead.
Royce, for a family as large as yours, when you were a child and were training, how did your family keep everybody interested and involved? How did you not get lost in a family that big and disinterested?
Okay. For instance, with my kids now, for every time they go to any kind of sport, and they do all of them, end up becoming very expensive. Every time they go expensive because every time they go to soccer, jiu-jitsu, volleyball, basketball, the little girl doing ballet, every time they do a class, I pay them, depending on their age, $5. Every time they go to swimming, I'll give you $5. Every time they go to a competition, they get $10. First gold medal is $100. First goal of the season, the first home run for the season is $100. After that, drops to 10. So now they break the bank. But I'm teaching them the sponsorship. If they lose, they get paid 10. If they get a red card, get kicked out, they get paid 20. But that goes for the whole team. The coaches hate me. You see on soccer, my kids play soccer, they go to the friends walking out of the field, pointing at the stands. Mr. Grace, I got $20. But which kid wants to get a red card? None of them. None of them wants to get punished, get kicked out, or get a, you see, no, none of them want. My father used to pay us more to lose than to win. If we lose, we get 20. If we win, we get 10. Reverse psychology. You don't want to lose, but if you lose, man, hey, it's okay. You get more. It's all right. Do I really want that $20, or do I want 10 to win? So it's a little reverse psychology that he used with us. So yeah, we kind of keep money buys them. We learn the sponsorship. That's what he's doing. There's no allowance. Whatever you want to go to the movies, well, save your money. Go do this. You don't want to do the sport, it's okay. No problem. But you don't have any, you don't get paid.
Cristiano.
First of all, it's an honor having you here, being a Brazilian, being a black belt under Master Gordo, Roberto Gordo, which is a black belt from your cousin Carlos. So it's a very great honor for me to be here.
very worst. Not just in jiu-jitsu, but in martial art in general. Taekwondo. I'm going to use in Taekwondo. I score a point, I'm a world champion. Taekwondo was not made for that. Taekwondo was made to rip a hole through your chest when I punch you, knock your head out. You see, martial art in general was made for you to defend yourself in a street fight situation, not to competition for a point. So jiu-jitsu scoring points, jiu-jitsu was not made for that. And that's why my father on the beginning used to be white belt, a light color blue, and a royal dark navy blue. Looks like black in black and white pictures. 68, 70, they create the IBJJF Federation in Brazil. And they set up a bunch of new colors on the belt system. My father went along for a while. They give him the highest ranking, but then he started to notice that people getting promoted without knowing the system, the self-defense system. It's kind of like Mike Tyson walk into a karate school, knock all the karate guys out. Does that make him a black belt in karate? Nope. Why not? Because he doesn't know the system. He doesn't know the katas. So guys are getting promoted because they're tough guys. They compete in tournaments. They fight in MMA. But do they know the self-defense system? No, they don't know the system. So my father spent the last 10, 15 years of his life. He changed. He went back, took the master belt that I awarded him, and put a blue belt, Royal Navy blue. So after he passed away, I mean, he would have put a red belt to take pictures because we asked him, hey, father, we're black belts. We can't take a picture with the lower ranking belt, the blue belt. So he would have put a red belt to take pictures. But then after he passed away, I put a belt like his, Royal Navy blue, and promotions stopped right there. That's when I say a belt only cover 2 inches of your behind. The rest, you gotta back it up on your own. So a lot of guys are tough. They're great competitors, they're great fighters, but do they know the system? No. Mike Tyson walk into any BJJ school, he'll probably knock out 90% of the guys before they even put their hands on him. Do that make him a black belt? So you gotta know the system.
Give one more question. Yes, please.
Did you ever beat your father? And when you did, how did you feel for the first time?
Never beat my father or my brothers. None of them. Nope. Actually, they tried to set up a fight with my cousin and I.
With Henzo?
With Henzo. I said, I called Henzo. I was like, Henzo, what's going on? They're trying to set us up, man. Are you calling for that? He's like, no, brother, I'll never fight you. I was like, okay, because if you say yes, man, I'll say, hey, let's make some money. I'll walk in, put my hands down, you knock me out, and we'll both make money. It'll be a one-punch knockout deal. He's like, no, man, we can't fight. We're family. Bless you.
Oh, yeah, we'll go final question here, absolutely. Do you want one, Mike? No, you know what? Mazzulli's going to go. We'll give the last to our president, so you're good. Full respect.
I remember back then the rules were a little bit open, so it was kind of brutal back then. You know, I remember all they carved for all the boys, like so. Anyway, then until now, what's your take on the evolution of the UFC and where do you see it going?
Well, the rules are even for both fighters. So it's actually helps the fighters have a longer life now. I was talking about that earlier. If the guys back then, their bodies are all broken up, you see. So today, the rules help the fighters last longer. People always ask me, well, but I mean, at least till a few years ago, people would say this is a brutal sport. Well, there are two professionals. The most popular sport in the world is soccer. And people break their arms and legs every year playing soccer, so that means soccer is brutal. So race car driving, what they sponsor, drink and drive in a high speed. If you look at it that way, you see, so it helps the fighter last longer. The doctors can stop the fight, the cornermen can stop the fight, the referee can stop the fight, the fighters can stop the fight. So there's a lot of people involved protecting the fighters.
Mike?
There's one last question. I've always said you always want to make your father feel good about you, right? When he's looking down from heaven saying, is my son doing the right thing? Now, can you explain to the body on what you do all over the world with all your schools? Do you think your father's happy with where it's going as the beginning of time to where we are now when it comes to jiu-jitsu?
I just came back from a 5-week trip. I just arrived from Spain, but I went to Israel, to Ukraine, to Portugal, to Italy for Bellator, to Dubai, Kuwait, Azerbaijan, Spain, here, tomorrow I'll go home in 5 weeks. So yeah, I think he's very proud that the way this spread. But again, he was very famous in Brazil. It's like Baby Ruth in Brazil. People in Brazil will be like, he plays what? What is baseball? You're telling me there is about what, 12, 15 guys arms with a piece of sticks and rocks on their hands, and when they get in a fight, they throw everything on the ground and they duke it out by hand? Are they crazy? So it'll be like, yeah, it's, my father is like, but coming to America, nobody knew about him. And today, you go to Azerbaijan to teach a class, you see, and people know Jiu-Jitsu. That's what the beauty of bringing to America. Once America found out, the whole world found out.
I just have to state one last thing. Hey guys, as of 3 weeks ago, our guest speaker backed out, and I was with Royce overseas, and I said, dude, I need a favor. And he said, you know what, Mike, what do you need? And I said, can you help me out? And he said, let's do it. So I just want to say thank you, and it's an amazing night. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Awesome, man. Thank you.
Obrigado.